This is Random Cinema with Greg and Jace, and the year is 1997. 1997 was a year Hollywood went big, emotionally, financially, and occasionally off the rails. Titanic ruled the box office and our hearts, proving that romance, tragedy, and a really big boat could make cinematic history. Men in Black gave us Aliens, Attitude, and Will Smith in peak 90s form, while The Lost World Jurassic Park reminded everyone that maybe bringing back dinosaurs wasn't such a great idea after all. Good Will Hunting made math emotional, LA Confidential brought noir back in style, and The Fifth Element turned sci-fi into a neon opera of chaos and charm. In short, 1997 was the year movies went for broke, and for most of them, it totally paid off. Welcome, Greg, to the show. Well, everybody said we wouldn't get there. There was no way we were going to achieve it, but we did. We made it to episode 2.
Yes.
How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing great, Jace, and once again, I am just so humbled by the support that we've been getting for these episodes, and now here we are. Yes, we have survived that all-important podcast first episode hump, if you will, to episode 2. And usually that means if you make it to your episode 2, the podcast will survive.
Absolutely. Well, I'm really excited about the guest we have tonight. So, Greg, can you fire away and introduce our second guest on Random Cinema?
Yes, it happens to be a wonderful friend of both of us. Our connection, it was only obvious that we would have him on. He is the bridge of you and I and how we met and the reason this podcast exists, really. It is of the Captain's Quadrant, the one and only Joe Dove.
I am beaming in with brand new equipment and nobody's going to be able to see it. So this is an excellent time to join you guys in an audio-only podcast. But it is so nice to be here with my friends, Jace and Greg Vorob. I like that you've changed your name, Jace.
All right, we should tell people this story. Real quick. Random Cinema with Greg and Jace was born, and I made, let's say I started to make the socials. Let's say I started to make that. It's, the IMDb page, all this stuff. And I spelled Jace, J-A-C-E, when it's J-A-S-E, all over. Now, all of this could have been changed. All of this,
this is the most beautiful, backdoor thing, because he and I are talking about it. He was like, I want to see how long they're going to go.
Yeah. So I knew,
I messed that up. That was my fault.
This actually goes all the way back to my first appearance on the Undiscovered podcast, Star Trek, your podcast. Because when you did the socials for that, you got it wrong. And I thought, he's kind of done them now. Do I really need to, make him have to go back through the social medias and change it all? And so I let it go. And then it started to become funny. So I decided to let it go.
Well, it's been private. It's been a private joke that when will I catch on that I spelt Jace wrong? But here's the thing. It's actually very gracious, and it could have been changed. It literally could have been changed. It would have taken me 60 seconds, I think, to change everything and make it J-A-S-E. However, Jace thought of something brilliant with the happy accident, and that C stands for cinema. So on Random Cinema with Greg and Jace, it's great to identify Jace as Cinema Jace versus VHS Jace and the Jace that he is on Talking Tubi and on Captain's Quadrant, that this is the Jace of Random Cinema, and there you have it. So happy accident. But in the future, Jace, I made a mistake. I would have absolutely changed it. It would have taken 2 minutes.
well, Greg, what you don't understand, it's a gift that I'll be feeding off now for years to come to remind you how you got spelled my name wrong. So it's actually, I thank you for spelling my name wrong, because that's going to give me comedy gold for decades to come.
For sure.
It's now, Greg, wonderful top of podcast obligatory small talk thing.
Which I don't like normally at all, and I skip on other podcasts. So that is the perfect segue, Greg, to ask Joe,
Yeah.
what did he pick this week?
Yes, you took my segue line. That's how in sync we are, though. That is my catchphrase that I never intended it to be. So, Joe, we'll talk about the year that you selected. Everybody's given 4 years to select from. Tell us your year, and then tell us your film, and then tell us this was a film that you had seen before, unlike a sight unseen film. Tell us why you picked this film, and then what you love about this film. Joe, take it away.
You gave me the 90s, and I said, you know what? The 90s was a time where I was becoming more self-aware. I realized the type of woman that I would be attracted to. I loved them tall, and I still do. I realized so much growing up in the world of New York City area, and I chose a movie that I was supposed to go on a date with, and it was going to be my big moment to ask this girl out that I had a crush on. She had a twin sister, and I fumbled it. I dropped the ball. I really screwed the pooch on this one, but it's still one of my favorite movies of all time, and that is Austin Powers and the International Man of Mystery, which is from 1997. Yes, thank you. And I'm looking at my notes, so I should have said that. But but the reason why I love this is because I grew up in a house that loved 007. And I grew up in a house that loved, obviously, Star Trek and Star Wars, all things science fiction and fantasy. But it was a house that loved The Naked Gun and just spoof comedies. And this was right up everybody's alley. So this is one of the movies that I got to go to the cinema with my friends and my grandmother, right along the time where she was transitioning from her failing mobility. But I laughed so hard with this movie. My grandmother laughed so hard with it. My friend Shaquilla laughed so hard with this movie. I still own the DVD. It's one of my absolute favorite movies of all time. And it's just like when you go back and you look at this, the Mike Myers genius of it was, okay, we're going to make a British comedy about 007, a man of mystery and everything. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, this isn't going to be that funny, but it was. And all the jokes really hit on point. And, he was frozen. They defrost him. And he's like getting all the stuff back. And one of my favorite lines is, Zanja's my middle name, baby. Yeah. And he goes, oh, great. And the guy, when he's defrosting, is returning all his items to him. And he goes, one sweetest penis enlarger for one Austin Danger Powers. And he goes, oh, how did that get in there? That's not my baby. No. So it's just, the jokes are so
one credit card receipt for.
yeah, exactly. He just went through this whole thing. And it killed me. And so to this day, it makes me laugh so hard. And I will watch this movie at least twice a year because if I'm feeling off, I'll pull this bad boy up and just dive into the comedy of it.
I love the choice that you made, Joe. I really do, because I think this is a movie that is like a warm hug. Mike Myers is literally coming out of the screen, grabbing you by the shoulder, going, "How you doing? Do you want to come and have a laugh? Let's go on a little adventure together," in the most joyous, hilarious way. This movie is one of the gifts of comedy in the 90s and beyond, in my opinion.
I agree.
Well, this is the thing, is that I have a connection to Mike Myers in that if Ghostbusters was the film that got me to love films, and it introduced me to SNL because these were SNL alumni, it happened to me a second time to reinvigorate that love and reinvigorate my passions altogether, and that was Wayne's World in 1992. When I think of the year 1992, I think of Wayne's World, and I came to love Mike Myers, and I this could be a whole other podcast of my love for Mike Myers. My dad used to take me to 30 Rock trying to get a glimpse of Mike Myers. Never did, but hold that thought. Put a pin in that, though. And I mean, that was like my dream to meet Mike Myers, because Wayne's World was my idea of what I used to envision a comedy film to be, but was never able to convey that. And what Mike Myers does and what his genius is, and was replicated in Austin Powers, like, and then some, was, we're going to have a good time right now, and I'm taking you with me. it's almost like an interactive experience. When Mike Myers is on, Mike Myers is on. And now let's go to Mike Myers in 1995 left Saturday Night Live, and he was not seen until Austin Powers. Austin Powers was his big comeback because his father had unfortunately passed away, which is part of why he made Austin Powers, because Joe, he grew up in a 007 home and an all things British 007 in comedy. So there's your connection to Mike Myers, and another reason why I feel you must have this spiritual connection to this film as well. And so he never had a chance to all this great success came to Mike Myers overnight, practically. He was once, like, if you watched SNL, you knew Mike Myers. And Wayne's World, the movie, transcended beyond just SNL fans. It was a film that it defined a generation. When I think of 1992, I think of Wayne's World. I said that. Well, when he came back with Austin Powers, there's now two things I think about when someone says 1997 to me, and that's Austin Powers and I graduated high school. That's 1997 is defined by Austin Powers and when I went to high school. Now, I didn't have to watch this movie because I know it so well for this podcast, but I did my homework, and I did. Might have been last minute, but I did. And Joe, what a joy this movie is. And seeing it again for the first time, because I don't watch it often. I watched this. I purposely, Joe, don't watch this like once or twice a year, because when I give it some time and watch it again, it's just the epitome of joy for me. And that was this viewing too. And now that I know film even better, you see the nuances there. And Mike Myers is genius because I don't know if you guys know the rumors. Mike Myers is a little bit passionate, you know, and but this time it's much like Jace and I and our connection and our making this podcast with being completely 50-50. He was completely on the same page with Jay Roach. So he and Jay Roach was just like in sync the whole time, making Austin Powers a joy to make. And that's why it's a joy to watch, because everybody was having a good time. And Mike Myers gave us everything. Now, I have a connection to Wayne's World that makes Wayne's World my favorite Mike Myers movie. But boy, did Mike Myers come back with this. And fast forwarding to its box office receipts of it being a moderate hit and had a cult following, is like anybody who saw this fell in love with it. But the fact that on home video and word of mouth on home video and then subsequently cable was able to get it a completely new following and and much more popular than it was, it would have been a crime, like an absolute crime, if this film was not discovered to make The Spy Who Shagged Me, which was everything this film was and more. That's a different podcast in case anybody ever picks The Spy Who Shagged Me, but if this film didn't get the love that it deserved, it would have been a crime. And it reinvigorated Mike Myers and his career, and even though Wayne's World is my favorite, and I think if somebody wanted to see and epitomize Mike Myers, it's more Austin Powers than anything else. And with that, I say my piece. That's my feelings on Austin Powers. And Joe, I cannot thank you enough for picking this film, because reliving this and seeing it again through completely different perspectives, I loved it even more.
Yeah. Jace.
Oh, I told you guys to put a pin in that, and that's because it's quick. There was Mike Myers in the hallway at school. I used to attend the T. Schreiber studio in New York City.
Oh, wow.
And that's a building that has a lot of agents' offices in there. And there was Mike Myers standing right by. He was wearing ripped jeans, standing there so nonchalantly. If anybody seemed unapproachable, it was the guy that he was talking to. Whoever he was talking about seemed like he would have been like, hey, we're having a conversation, whatever. But so he had to move. I'm like, oh my God, it is Mike Myers. I really feel like my dad brought me Mike Myers. And so I go into the men's room, which he knows me now because he had a move for me to get into the men's room, and I'm washing my hands and I'm practicing. What am I going to say to him? You're one of the reasons I'm actually here in an acting class. You do this for your father. I do this for my father. And I just want to thank you. And I wanted to meet you forever. It's a pleasure. And I was practicing, washing my hands, practicing this. I came out of the men's room. I chicken out. I nod and smile at him. He nods and smiles back. And for me, that was enough. And I went, I just met Mike Myers, finally. But damn it, I'm like, one day I will get the nerve. And I'm not a starstruck person, as Jason and I had discussed. But for this, I just lost my nerve. And so there was my encounter with Mike Myers.
Wow.
Well, that and the random cinema show after a 15-minute monologue there by Greg, but I don't know what to add to that, honestly. I do agree, obviously, a lot with you, Greg. This film is obviously one of those films that is kind of crosses all demographics, and it is universally loved. I mean, it's a little bit cheeky. It dances on the line of Baby being too risque, but not enough that you can't let your 8-year-old watch it or your grandma watch it. It does cross all the kind of genres. And honestly, I'm going to be quite controversial there, is probably, and this is a compliment to the trilogy, my less favorite one out of all three of them.
Really?
I absolutely will stand by that. I think this is one of the rare comedy franchises to me that actually peaks at number 2, but I do like number 3 a lot for emotional, personal reasons, because it's about a father and son kind of dynamic happening there.
That's the heart and the key. Yeah.
That's right.
That's why he made the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. But in saying that, that does not denigrate what this first film achieves, because when you talk about his love for, he was soaked in British television, and that's something I, had the same experience growing up, was being soaked in British television. Here in Australia, equally, we were exposed to American television as well as British television. So the comedy influences that he has, and there are multiple of references he's making, not just James Bond, but the James Coburn spy series that they've done. The Carry On series he is pulling from. He is pulling from TV shows like On the Buses. And that his knowledge of the source material that he's sourcing from is exceptional. And a funny little bit of trivia about this, there is literally a reference to every James Bond film from Dr. No to View to a Kill.
Oh.
So there's pulled out a reference of every Bond movie and put it in there. You've got to keep your eye out, but if you're a massive James Bond fan, which I am, you can see a bunch of them. So it's certainly a film that is soaked in and respects the source material it's pulling from. It's adorable, lovable film. And, let's also put a shout out to the supporting cast of this, because not only is Mike Myers exceptional, but everybody is in this film, from Michael York to Robert Wagner.
Yeah.
Like Robert Wagner, everybody knows him. He's been around forever and he's still awesome and hilarious. To a young Seth Green. I mean, come on, that scene when they're getting father-son counseling is just magic. And the other thing I wanted to say about this film is the third act. It is why this film holds so strong, because definitely in comedies, that's the death spiral section of the movie. You know, you've been laughing for an hour, you've been over laughing at this point, and it spins out. But this movie does something so rare. It is super strong in its third act. It's hilarious. Whether it's, the ridiculousness of Dr. Evil in the plastic suit falling off the chair, or the 75-point turn in the golf cart.
Yeah.
Which is amazing, to the guy going to get, run over by the rolling machine.
Yeah.
Happens to be a kilometer away from the actual.
Yeah.
There's just so much to love about this film. And Elizabeth Hurley, who is generally known as a hot model, I'll be honest with you, proves that she is a very adept actress. And certainly if it isn't for her being so likable, Austin becomes less likable if she isn't that likable. So she brings a lot to this film as well. So, yeah, a strong film in what I said, what I think is the weakest one in the trilogy. That's how much I respect and love Austin Powers movies.
One of the, as you mentioned, the supporting cast, one of the breakout actors from this was a young Will Ferrell, who played Mustafa to the T.
Great point, Joe. Great point.
Mhm.
Has
Yep.
this great scene where he falls over and they were like, "Oh, he must be dead. I've come to kill you, Mr. Powers." And he falls over and he's like, "Oh, okay. Hello, is anybody there? I've fallen. I've broken my leg. I
Well,
believe."
that's the second one. That's the second one.
Yeah, that's the second one. But that just
Yeah.
this one, one of the assassins is coming to get him.
Well, yeah. Well, Will Ferrell was in the next generation of Saturday Night Live after him,
Right.
and this cameo was like his first major motion picture role, and it's like this could have sent him into movie stardom as well because he
Yeah.
was so good in that one scene. And speaking of which, you guys know who he originally wanted for Scott Evil.
No.
He wanted Colin Quinn, which would have been. He was a Saturday Night Liver. He's an older gentleman. It seems like
that would have been weird for.
Yeah, but if you look at Colin Quinn, if you go look at his stand-up or a Saturday Night Live clip, particularly look at like the people that don't know who Colin Quinn is, look at Leo the Lion or Joe Blow in Weekend Update SNL segments and picture. And of course, Seth Green turned out legendary. Don't get me wrong, but you'd be able to see what Mike Myers was going for if this was Scott, and would have been still an absolutely brilliant choice. And he was in that group along with Will Ferrell. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It was a Will Ferrell key career moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the supporting cast in this, actually, even Michael York. You remember Michael York, who plays basically the M character in this movie,
Right.
is known to be a star of miniseries in the 70s, or he was in The Four Musketeers, the early 70s version of that, directed by Richard Lester, who ended up directing Superman 2 after Richard Donner got fired. So Michael York has been known as traditional theatre-trained actor playing this goofy M character. And I just think everybody, not only behind the camera but in front of the screen, actually knew what they were making.
Yeah.
No one seems out of sync. Everybody gets the tone, which is, to me, baffles my mind because there's nothing else like this in comedy-wise. You can say it's a spoof movie, but it's certainly different than Airplane or Naked Gun or those type of spoof movies. It's its own brand. It's its own style of spoof movie. So
it's Mike Myers' signature, and we know that he doesn't do much. I guess he doesn't have to, really. Again, a whole other podcast discussion, but it's just his genius.
Yeah,
he just really, he's
really firing on all cylinders here. The first time we didn't get SNL like back then in Australia. We didn't. No, we didn't get Saturday Night Live.
I didn't know that.
Well, it is an American show for American people, not the rest of the world see it.
Yeah, but
we got it in the 2000s, late 2000s when streaming started and all that. Either way, the point is, my knowledge of Mike Myers really was from theatrical films. It was from Wayne's World. It was from So I Married an Axe Murderer, which I still love quite a lot, and I think is an awesome film. My experience with Mike Myers has been purely cinematic, and by now you're going, okay, this guy really has found his foot now. He knows what he wants to do with comedy, and it's just who
I compare his genius to, even though they're completely different types of humor, is Albert Brooks. Because Albert Brooks is someone else who sees things like nobody else. As his own very unique style and a genius, an absolute genius who also chooses not to do much because they do their own thing. And
I'd say Peter Sellers as well. I would add.
That's one of Mike's influences. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What I found exciting about this movie when I did some overlooking, that this came to him because he was coming home from a hockey game and he was listening to Burt Bacharach, The
Yeah.
Look of Love. And I'm like, what? What a way to like come up with all these things.
Well, Burt Bacharach, one of the seminal like artists of that period,
Yeah.
was already attached to that spy genre because he'd done
True.
music for things like Casino Royale and stuff like that. So that was where I think sparked his memory of it, you know.
Yeah.
To the fact is, ladies and gentlemen, here's Burt Bacharach, who's in the film, you know,
And
just doing
Elvis
a
Costello.
beautiful cover of one of his songs. So
Yeah. What do you get when you fall in love?
so,
Anyway.
and which is wonderful, and also so important to the tone of the movie. The Burt Bacharach music reminds everybody that we're in a safe place, enjoying this. We're supposed to be smiling. We're supposed to be just laughing and feeling great in the moment. And this movie does that. It does that, you know, and it's so well.
It deserves. I would recognize this film as one of the best comedies ever made and one of the best films ever made. It really. I mean, we're talking about a list of many, but it deserves its place in a list and in cinematic history because it reinvigorated the spoof movie. A lot of things that came after it existed because of Mike Myers and this movie.
I would say this franchise, because there's so many movies, would definitely make my top 100 without question. I don't know where it fits, maybe halfway along the line there, maybe in the 50s, maybe. But yeah, Austin Powers, just you know, you look back at now and you think when you first see it, it's such a fun but throwaway character, but it's not. It became more than just a movie. It became part of the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
We all still quote from that movie or that franchise.
And can you believe that Mike Myers did that 3 times, making movies that affected a generation? It's Wayne's World, Austin Powers, and then did it again as a voice actor with Shrek.
Yeah.
3 legendary things. That's why the man doesn't have to do anything.
No.
Is that so? That's pretty amazing, and not a common thing in careers. I guess you could say at the top of my head, Harrison Ford has done that, but 2 out of those 3 things that made Mike Myers a legend, he created.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, again, Joe, we thank you for recommending this film, because one of the great things about Random Cinema is it allows me and Greg to, you know, go back and revisit films that maybe, you know, we've seen but we haven't seen for 20 years or we've never seen. So it goes to show a lot about who you are, Joe, that you chose this film, because in many ways I see parallels between this film and you. You're a very joyous, hilarious, sweet individual. So it seems apt that he chose this movie, right, Greg?
Yeah, and before we wrap up and let Joe tell us where we can find him and
If
wrap
we
up
have
here,
to.
let's go along. Yeah, let's go along the lines of the ratings for this movie out of 10. Let's start with you, Jace.
I'll give it a good 8. 8 out of 10.
And we want our guest of honor to wrap up with his rating. I also give it an 8, right there, an 8. Joe.
Wow. I give it a 9.
Excellent.
The only thing that would have made this more perfect was done in the sequel.
I must say, I used to have it at a 10. A couple of technical things that I don't even need to get into. The top of my head, the love story is a little forced. It's just a little forced, and it would have been a perfect movie there. A couple of bits for me just to fall a little bit short, but otherwise it's an 8.
It's funny you say that, because I felt like there was a disconnect between him and Elizabeth Hurley, but they resolved that in the sequel, and it brought us some of the funniest lines. Machine gun jubblies, how did I miss those? Because you don't do any foreplay, asshole.
Yeah.
It's a great opening for this.
As long as we're on the subject of The Spy Who Shagged Me, I would have preferred that Vanessa was replaced by a fembot while on the honeymoon. Not that she was a fembot the whole time, but whatever. It was meta. It was meta about... Yeah, it still worked. Yes, it still worked.
But what works about that movie, especially the opening, is actually the dance sequence. Yeah, that's just that's perfunctory to what is one of the great openings with him dancing in the nude. And of course, the sequel, it really should be just called Mini Me, because that is what when it comes to the comedy hurting your side laughing like you almost can't breathe. Mini-Me in that movie has some scenes that are just like beyond funny. Like should come with a warning, a health risk warning. They're so funny. But this movie is funny in its own way, and Austin Powers is amazing. Yeah, and again, just to close out, the idea that he is not a good-looking dude, but his confidence is what wins him over with the women.
He's got the riz.
You know, he's got the British teeth. He's not the best-looking guy in the world, but his love of life and his confidence is what makes him so sexy.
And I never enjoyed the fembot scene as much as I did in this viewing, where it's a joke. He's not, but he's so sexy and charming that he's able to overload the circuits.
Fembot, yes, I love that. Yes,
it's amazing.
With the nipples, that was great.
Oh well, we're going to close this episode out now, Joe.
Yes.
I can't thank you enough for coming on, being our second guest, bringing such a great film to the table. Can you tell us where you can be found on the World Wide Web?
Well, you can find me in a lot of places, but luckily none of them is jail. You can find me every Friday night on a show that, I am lucky enough to start out with you almost 4 years ago, and that is the Captain's Quadrant. That is where I met Greg. And we dive into Star Trek and science fiction every Friday, 9 p.m. live with the other Jason, Roy Gaston, and various guests while he's on vacation. You can also find me on the To Be Seen channel, which has been going on for 12 years. It's weird that it's been on 12 years, but it spawned so many little sub shows like Disc Dungeon, where we talk about music as much as you guys talk about movies. It's a deep dive into various albums and their connections that are unknowingly connected, which is quite interesting. It's a lot of fun. I definitely got to have you on that again, Jace, and Greg. I got to have you on that one because that's a lot of fun to talk about.
Love music. Music.
And you can also find me on 2 new shows that I thank you again, Jace, for helping start off. And that is Shedding Light, which is a Disc Dungeon subsidiary now on a podcast form, and Dumpster Fire Flicks, where we look at trash movies and we just see how bad were they really. We just finished up Sleepaway Camp, the 1983 Sleepaway Camp. We haven't seen that in decades, so that was a lot of fun. But if you want to go find me on the socials, it's Captain's Quadrant everything, or To Be Seen. And if you like photography, it's Lost Stone and Steel. And I think that's enough. I plug, but I won't take up another half hour of all the things that I do.
Fantastic. All right, guys, Greg, do you want to sign off for the show?
Just another great guest, and I, on behalf of myself, want to thank you, Joe, so much. And once again, thank you to those who have been joining us each time here. You have humbled me. I'm sure I speak for Jace as well, and have given Jace and I such pleasure in bringing this to you. And we're very honored and humbled. Thank you for your comments, your support. It means the world to me. Find Random Cinema with Greg and Jace on the World Wide Web, on Facebook and Instagram by searching Random Cinema with Greg and Jace, on X at randomgreg_Jace, on Blue Sky at Random Cinema. And you can shoot us an email at randomcinemawithgregandjace@gmail.com. And please, if you would like to be given a year and choose a film, please let us know, and we would love to have you.
Thanks for listening to the show, everybody. If you also want to find me out there on the interwebs, you can catch me at Talking Tubi over on YouTube. You can also find me over on the at Jason Roy Gaston YouTube channel, where we're having fun and shenanigans. And lastly, you can also find me occasionally working with the boys at the Captain's Quadrant, the amazing, unique Star Trek show for everybody to enjoy.
And you can find me, Greg Vorob, let me spell my last name for you, Vorob, on YouTube at Greg Vorob, where you can check out a lot of my film projects, Instagram and Blue Sky at Greg Vorob. On Facebook, find me as a friend, Greg Vorob, or like my professional page, Also, Real Reactions with Greg and Kyle, podcast-wise, but remember that's REEL. Real Reactions with Greg and Kyle is currently exclusively on Spotify and iHeartRadio. And of course, Star Trek The Undiscovered podcast, in which you could check me out as the showrunner and main moderator for the first 3 seasons. There's also enough bonus shows to constitute its own season. And of course, check out Star Trek The Undiscovered podcast with Jeff Howell and Ken Radner. Don't forget to check out our extended family of podcasts, the aforementioned Captain's Quadrant, live every Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on their YouTube channel at Captain's Quadrant. Happiness and Darkness, the superhero movie podcast. Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast. The Five-ish Fangirls. Twin Cities Trekkies. Bullshit Hour with John Seymour and its subsidiary, This Podcast is Lamb Chops. And The Hour of Comics is Upon Us with John Seymour, Jason Gurin, and Ken Radner. Find them wherever you get your podcasts.
Excellent, Greg. I will also add a couple more to that family. Please go and check out the Sci-Fi Queens. Nita runs that every fortnight, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a wonderful show. And if you want to see an Australian point of view on trailer reactions, go check out at Pop Culture Spread, as Rick Perrone and occasionally myself will go back and look at some trailers that are new and some of they are old.
Thank you once again for listening to Random Cinema with Greg and Jace, and we will see you on the next show.